Today's guest may be a mean girl, but she's far from average. Jordyn Woodruff, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I don't know who to look at.
We'll test your eye contact ability. Yeah, it's great to have you.
Bad at eye contact.
We'll work on it.
I know it's something I'm working on in my daily life.
Okay.
How often are you a guest on a show? Because you have your own podcast, but
Honestly, I was thinking about that. I think you guys are only my fourth time, and you're like my first two people. Usually just like one person.
okay,
So
nice.
it's easy just like back and forth, but now I'm like two people.
Yeah. Well, he's married, so first two guys at the same time. We'll pop your cherry. So I want to start with Marin, our mutual connection.
Yes.
So you guys are both from Minnesota. Did you know each other before New York?
No, I actually didn't know that she was from Minnesota until the moment I met her. So she reached out and she was like, will you come on my podcast? I was like, of course. And then she was like, I did some stalking and I realized we're from very close areas in Minnesota. And she's the first Minnesotan I've met in New York. So I was
Oh,
like, this
wow.
is going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Now, how did she reach out? Because I asked her, because like, you know, when you're in the podcast game and you have a business, you're always trying to reach out to the right people. And she gets like great guests like you. So like, was it just a simple DM and you were like, hey, like, I'll help you out?
Yeah, so I try to check my DMs pretty regularly from like a business standpoint. I try to avoid them from other standpoints because they can get very nasty and creepy. But I saw like it was like a nice girl. I was like, oh, I'll like read this DM. She reached out and I try to like women supporting women in this industry. And I was like, wait, she went on 28 dates in February. I kind of want to like interview her because she sounds really cool. And I saw that she was like up and coming. So I was like, why not? Like, great networking. I could make a new friend, which now like we went to dinner last night.
Yeah, we were just on the phone with her. She was telling us.
So I was like, why not? And so it was just like a simple DM. And I was like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, you know, we did the same thing with her, right? I think someone actually sent me her whole 28 dates in 28 days. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Reach out to her. She responded right away. And then I think for me, it's like not so much the clout somebody has, but when I talk to them, if like we click and it's like, hey, like we're in this kind of project together. And that's what happened with her. And then same thing with you at the event. Like, you know, we knew who you were already, but talking to you and everybody, like my Hannah's opinion, I was like, oh, Jordyn's so amazing. Like, let's get her on the podcast. And it's like kind of building that community of all the people trying to help each other.
Yeah. And like going back to just people doing cool things, like you guys starting a dating app, I thought was so cool. I'm obviously dating a lot. I have a podcast about dating. So I was like, you guys are awesome to talk to. Marin was so cool to talk to. So even from my benefit, I'm like, I just like talking to people like in this space because maybe one day I'll want to do something more with the dating world and everything. So it's just like all like fun and networking.
Love
Yeah. And we were talking in the lobby before about how like women like to get inside guys' heads and vice versa. So like we can always learn from each other, or hopefully learn from each other. So hopefully, you know, you can learn something from us. Maybe a takeaway in this
fly on the
room.
wall.
Yeah. Well, I do want to start with an easy question. Where can someone find the best coffee in New York City?
Oh, easy. Laughing Man Coffee. Hugh Jackman owns it in Tribeca.
Okay.
And I believe he's Australian. So I know your wife will love that.
Okay.
It's one of those places I went to and I was like, I'm not kidding. I could drink this coffee just black. I don't need milk in it or anything. And the vibe is also so cool. Have you guys been there?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm very intrigued too. And I want to know why you think is the coffee good or is it the vibe?
So
Or
there's
is
two
it his
things.
body?
Well, I mean, I love Hugh Jackman. So that was, I mean, knowing like a famous actor has a place here, I was like, well, I got to try it. But two, like Tribeca is just such a cool bougie area. And the vibe is so pretty inside. And every time I go, I always can find a place to sit, which is very hard in New York. And the coffee's really good. So it was just kind of like a few different things. But I don't know. Going to Tribeca is like a treat for me because I live on like the Upper East Side. So I just feel cool going there. I'm like with all like the rich housewives and CEOs and venture capital people. I'm like, I'll pretend to be you guys for the day.
That's where
Nice.
I want to live, in a perfect world.
Right?
Yeah.
The dream
Have
is
a nice little
Tribeca.
family in Tribeca. There's like that one building where I think Jay-Z and Beyonce, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, and then Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel live in the same building. And it's like this
What?
new building. You know where Flywheel is in Tribeca?
Yes.
Right next door to that. And it's like the coolest spot ever.
I don't understand how we know where famous people live in the city. Like, that's crazy to me.
Well,
Paparazzi.
that building has a secret like garage that goes out into a different block. So like you don't know where it is. And they get in and out of the building that way.
That's very cool.
Yeah. But have you tried Merriweather coffee?
I have not.
So Merriweather, so I used to live in the West Village, and that was my local spot.
Okay.
And it's like my favorite coffee, and it's also Australian.
See, I feel like
That's the
Australian
secret.
coffee is where
Yeah.
it's at.
They know what
Okay,
they're doing.
Remind me to make note of that one before I leave.
For sure.
Okay, we got you.
Because I will say though, I was in California, in San Diego, not LA, like a month ago. Incredible coffee.
No.
What?
No, Jordan.
San Diego has phenomenal
Maybe San
coffee.
Diego.
Yeah,
Not in LA.
I didn't try. Well, I had like Pete's. Is it Pete's or Phil's? It's Phil's.
That's a
Phil- oh,
chain.
that's
Yeah.
I don't
by,
know.
by Sherman Oaks.
I went there every day because I'm in Chamberlain. Went there back in her day, so I was like, I'm just gonna go there. But no, San Diego has phenomenal coffee.
All
Okay.
right. We'll try it out.
Yeah,
All right. So you are about to turn 29?
28.
28. Sorry.
Tomorrow.
Okay. You're
Well,
turning 28 tomorrow.
Technically,
This
I
may
guess.
come out in 2 months. So
Yeah.
you turned 28 59 days ago when people are watching this. So most of your friends around the same age in New York?
Yeah, so it's funny. In Minnesota, I was always the youngest friend. In New York, I'm the oldest friend. So by like 2 years though.
Okay.
Like,
So friends are in their mid 20s.
yeah.
So are most of them single? Are they in relationships? What are they looking for? Because New York is a different animal in terms of dating.
All of my friends are single. Besides, I have one friend, my co-host Alex Bennett. She's obviously married, but besides her, all my friends are single.
And do they want to be single? Are they doing like the Sex and the City thing? I don't know if that's even true. I don't watch the show. So I meant, are they sleeping around or are they?
I mean, we're all dating, having fun. I don't think any of us are like choosing to be single by choice, but no one that I know is like, I need a relationship today.
Mm.
We're all just kind of like out there experiencing life, dating, and we're all very okay and content being single, but we obviously want to find a partner in the foreseeable future.
Sure.
But we're all like, I don't even have a friend who's like seeing a guy consistently.
Mm.
And I think that's New York, though. Like, when
Yeah.
I lived here, it was like, there's just so many people and so much going on. It doesn't even matter how good the person is. You kind of just, or like, if I get tied down to this one person, like, what am I going to miss out on? Which
Yeah.
isn't a good mindset, but like, that's how I used to think. So I see why.
Oh,
you
yeah.
And I asked you that question the other day, which I always ask women because they're like,
I know. I
That's-
think about that still to this day. I was only been a week.
the question.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because like, you're still in your 20s, but like, when women in their 30s come up to us and are like, hey, like, I really want to find somebody, I'll ask them, but do you actually? And then the response they give me is like, yeah, but I don't want the guy to like encroach on my time, and like, I don't want him to do this. And it's like, okay, if you have all those parameters, you're probably not personally ready to be in a
Yeah.
relationship.
No, you asking me that, I really did have to take a step back because I always was like, yeah, of course I want a relationship. And then I've never had someone straight up ask me that I don't know.
Mhm.
And when you asked me that, I was like, maybe I actually don't want a relationship. But then we started talking more, and I think I want somebody to like hang out with, companionship, do fun things with, but I don't know if I'm ready for a committed relationship just because in New York things are so quick, and with our world we live in and what we do, it's just easier to be single sometimes. But I'm not against the idea. Like if I meet my dream person, I'm like, yeah,
Right.
I'll date you.
And I think what you just said is perfect, right? And I think when I ask that question, I hope people just think what they actually want. Because now
Mhm.
if you meet a guy, right, you could kind of be honest and be like, hey, like, I'm really looking for someone to hang out with and kind of have fun with, not really in a rush to get into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And having that communication kind of sets you both off on a good front of like the beginning of whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of New York. Like you might go on 4 dates, and that could be 4 to 5 months because people are so busy. Where I feel like back in Minnesota, where I'm from, 4 dates could be 2 weeks
Mhm.
because people are just here and they're consistent, and like that's what they're looking for. So sometimes it works out so well where you can just like casually date that person for such a long time.
Now, do you get the small town question from like people back home or your parents of like, hey, you're 27, why are you not settled down?
So when I lived in Minnesota, I was the only single friend, and people are always like, so have you met anyone? Are you dating? Like, what's going on? And now that I live in New York, people don't ask me that as much just because they're like, oh, it's because you live in New York. But in Minnesota, it was like all the time to the point where I was like, just don't ask me anymore. Like, I don't want to talk about it.
27 in New York is like 18 in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. All of my friends back home are married, have kids, or in very serious relationships on the verge of like probably going to be engaged in the next year. I don't
Mm.
have any single friends in Minnesota. It's
Uh,
crazy. Well, besides one. I have one.
Feel you. Yeah. So what does that dream guy look like? Both, inside, outside, values, character.
Oh, gosh.
What are the most important things for Jordyn Woodruff?
So, physically, it's changed. I'm notorious for having the worst taste in men from my friends. So, through therapy and really hard conversations with friends, we've changed it. I tend to, like, if you look at all the guys I date, they look so much alike.
What does that look like?
I'm gonna close my eyes and picture this.
No, it's bad. So like, if someone was like, Jordyn, what are you looking for in a guy? I'd be like, tall, dark, and handsome. But then if you look at all the guys I date, they're like lumberjack.
Okay.
So like scruffy.
Maybe it's the Minnesota in you, like
I
a
don't-
manly man.
Or it's like me subconsciously picking people I know I won't last with.
Okay.
But
yeah.
like, if you looked at my last 3 exes, or not exes, guys I've dated, it's to the point where my friends were like, are these the same people? Like, it's creepy.
A lot of flannels.
Yeah, but just like
beards.
not in that great a shape, like lumberjack, which is like stuff it's mind blowing because I like value motivation and like being active and all this stuff.
Through therapy, have you figured out where that comes from?
Well, I think we figured out it's like subconsciously me picking people I don't actually want to be with.
Okay.
Or
okay.
people who I don't actually see a future with because I wasn't ready to have a future with a person at that time.
Okay.
But like now I would say like, so I'm trying to work on height. I was very picky on height for a very long time. I was like, you have to be 6 feet or taller because I'm 5'8". And when I wear any type of shoe, like this is the lowest I mean, these are like true flats, but I'm usually in some type of wedge. So that puts me above them. And I just always wanted to feel small and not taller than the guy I'm dating. But I'm learning like we need to get away from that. So I have been dating guys similar to my height, which has been great actually. And then like non-physical, definitely like motivation. I need them to have like aspirations and goals. They can't be lazy. Someone who's kind, chivalrous, being polite. Like that's not a thing in New York.
Yeah.
Minnesota, it's like very much more common. But even like a guy opening the door here, I'm like, did you just open the door for me? And my friend's like, no, like that should be the bare minimum.
Yeah,
and like nice and funny, just like the basics.
Okay. I know you said on Marin's podcast that if someone gets you an Uber, that's marriage material.
Yes.
So that seems like bare minimum type stuff.
Which you would think. But if I could tell you how many guys have bought me an Uber, it's actually now 1. And I'm 28 tomorrow.
Do guys walk you home ever? Is that common?
No, because in New York, like we'll go, like let's say I live in the Upper East Side, we'll go to the West Village. They live in East Village or something. We're taking like 2 different stops.
Yeah.
But even like a guy to be like, did you get home safe is rare.
We were talking about that the other night, right? I think with some, or on the pod, one of the last.
Walking somebody home?
Well, like the follow-up text to a date. Like,
yeah, I think so. I think the easiest follow-up text to not come off as pushy or playing a game is just say, did you get home safe? Because it's such a nice thing. And if the girl doesn't respond, it's clear that she's not into you.
Or she died.
Whereas
I'm kidding.
That's
or
possible.
she didn't make it home.
Yeah.
But you touched on a lot of things with like your prototypical person that you're interested in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talk to a lot of sex therapists and dating coaches, and they kind of reiterate to us that the person that you think that you're physically attracted to, you're actually probably not going to connect with any of those people, and you're more going to connect with the people that you said secondly, right? The morals, values, drive. Do you see, like, when you go on a date with somebody, that those attributes come out more, and that you're like, you know what, maybe the lumberjack, this guy's not my type, or the tall, dark, and handsome guy is my type, but depending on that connection is more important to you?
Oh, yeah. Like, I have dated my stereotypical type in my head, and
the brawny guy. The paper towel guy, yeah.
yes, that. And, like, the tall, dark, and handsome, what I think I want, and they end up being douchebags or just treating me so poorly. And then I'll try to, like, date people I wouldn't have dated based off of physical attraction, and they're usually the people who I'm like, wait, you're funny. You treat me with a lot of respect. You have values. You match my values. So I am definitely trying to get away from, like, the physical. Like, it has to be there, of course.
Right.
But, like, that initial, like, on dating apps, it's hard because that's all you see.
Yeah, and I think that's what we do now is, like I told you the other day, like, we find a reason to reject somebody before we find a reason to accept them. But I think the baseline should be, like, does this person treat you right? Are you attracted to them? And, do you guys somewhat align morals and values-wise? And if you have that and you're happy, like, then you should start to, like, think what's next. So, and then the other thing we were talking about was the chivalry, right?
Yeah.
And, like, that's something that I always preach is, like, we're getting back into this world where, like, women are saying what you just said, right? Like, of course, opening the door for me, like, that's common. But I think it got so to a point where men were like, oh, do I open the door for somebody? Do I pick up the check? And to me, I was like, well, those things are pretty obvious. And I think women are saying, I still want a guy to be chivalrous, but he could still like just treat me equal. And I think
Yeah.
those kind of work together. So I wanted to get your take on that specifically, like the chivalry part of it.
Yeah, I mean, if a guy doesn't pay on the first date, I won't speak to him ever again.
Okay, so this is the $1,000,000 question because it happened to Hannah and I. So I will always pay on the first date,
Mhm.
even if I'm not into the person. But if that person doesn't initiate to split the bill, for some reason I'm just like a little turned off.
I always initiate.
Okay.
Unless there's like sometimes like I went on a date a few weeks ago and it was awkward because you know how like they have the thing that they can bring to the table now,
Mhm.
and they're like, give me your card, and they insert
Mhm.
it. Sometimes that happens like so quick where it's just like awkward and they're already there, and then you're just kind of like, oh, sorry. But if the check comes and it's like sitting there, I always am like, can I pay? I always offer.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think in that situation, when the guy comes with a little machine,
Mm-hmm.
I think the thank you is the next thing for me, right? Depending on, like, sometimes it's happened where I didn't get anything, and I'm just like, so you fully expected, like, this was just.
It's like the TikTok trend. Have you seen where it's like, oh, I can help pay, and then it shows their person, there's nothing in it. Like,
I haven't seen that. I don't spend as much time on TikTok, but that's great.
Oh, that's
And do you have a 3-date rule with paying? Did I hear that correctly?
yeah, so I, in a perfect world, would love if a guy at least paid for the first 3, and then I'm open to splitting here or there. But, I mean, it's not the end of the world.
I like that rule.
It would just be nice, just from, like, a respect standpoint. But I will offer every time. Like, I went on a date, actually after the mixer.
Oh yeah, how was that date?
It was great. We stayed up till 5 a.m.
No.
Not
Wow.
not having sex or anything, literally just bar hopping.
Well,
Wow.
I saw you posted something on Instagram in a cab, and you were like dressed, and you're like, hey, would you say, maybe I shouldn't go to a first date drunk, but
Yes.
I drank a lot at this mixer or something?
Yeah, it's your guys and Marin's fault. There's
It's
open bar.
Marin's fault. Yeah, all Marin.
Literally, I left the mixer. I ran to CVS, chugged a water, went on the date, drank a ton, and then we just kept bar hopping. And in New York, it's open till 4 a.m., so we just stayed out. It was great. It lasted till 5 a.m.
Nice.
What do you mean it lasted till 5 a.m.?
Like we were out at bars till 4 a.m.
Wow.
Then we decided to walk around.
Just together, just you two?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
In that smoke too. That says a lot because the smoke was really starting to come in on
True.
Tuesday
Yeah.
night.
I mean,
yeah.
but you know, in like New York, where you're at bars, like random people come in, you start
Mhm.
chatting with them, and like we met these like people with crazy stories, and the bartender talks to you, and it's just like it was just like a whole charade of people.
Was
so
the
it was a lot
bar
of
hop in
fun.
Midtown or downtown?
So he lives actually right near me, so we stayed like right in our little neighborhood
Nice.
uptown. Yeah.
Very cool.
Do you also? I feel like you have a lot of rules, like a little gremlin. Do you have?
I don't follow them though.
Okay. What about the over 30 rule? Did you recently change that you only date guys over 30?
So I would prefer older, but I pretty much only older than me.
Mm.
My age or older. Like I won't date younger than me.
Okay.
I mean, I just feel like in New York, I know where I was at, and I just like can't imagine. This is total like I shouldn't think this way, but I just can't imagine anyone younger than me wanting to have a serious relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I fully agree with that. I was actually talking to, I think, my brother about it yesterday, and I think, again, no judgment. My personal opinion is that if I was a woman that's 25, I would start 5 years older and like
Yeah.
do that until, I don't know, I got to a certain age. But I think I would stay in that 5-year and above buffer.
Yeah. I also don't want to take away. Like I was in a 5-year relationship from college to 23, and I don't want to take away anyone's like fun 20s and then have them resent me, which you shouldn't look at a relationship like that. But like I was in a boring relationship, so that's how I kind of viewed life. So I just want like my future husband to like enjoy his 20s, be a shit show, and then be like, okay, I'm ready to settle down. Like let's do this thing.
Got it out of my system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Hannah suffered a lot because we're the same age. So she was probably like, oh my God, this guy's so mature. Like,
Do a lot of your friends? Do you guys have like similar kind of values or thoughts on dating in New York? Like, do a lot of them have the same, especially with paying and stuff? Like, are you on the same page?
Yeah, for like the basics, like paying, like the bare minimum stuff, but we all have very different types. Like even with Mara, and I had dinner with her last night, and she was showing me all these guys she wanted to set me up with, and I was like, no. And she was like, I don't understand your type. And then I would show her with the guys that I thought were cute, and she's like, we have not anyone in common.
Mm.
So I feel like all of my friends have different types, which is great because then we never overlap. But other than that, like the basics, like the morals and values are similar.
And Marin said she doesn't even reach for her to pay on a date anymore. She's way past that.
I know,
Yeah.
but I feel like she kind of deserves. I mean, she's 31, and I feel like not that that's older, but she's been dating a lot more and kind of, I feel like she's just.
So she's earned her free meals
She's
without having
earned it. Like
Yeah.
she's like, universe, just give me a break. Like let me just like coast and find a good guy. Like she's had the bad dates.
Okay. Here's a question, right? Opening the door.
Mm-hmm.
When a guy stops opening the door for you, where do you go from there? When you're just like, why don't you open the door for me more, bro?
Like is he slamming in my face? Or
No,
just
like just not like the first date he opens the car door for you. The second date he opens the car door. Third date he opens the car door. Then you guys start dating and he stops opening the car door. Do you expect him to open the car door forever?
Yeah.
Really?
I feel like
In
that-
actuality.
I mean, no, but I mean, like in my mind, that is screaming that person's giving up, and like that's my biggest fear in a relationship. They just get too comfortable, and one person just kind of stops trying. So I wouldn't be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But
If there were other signs that
Yeah.
But
went
why is
with it.
comfortable a bad thing? Like, just from me speaking, right? Like, on the first few dates, right? The opening the car door, the passion, like the chemistry, like that's most important. Then once you find out you and that person are like taking it to the next level, I feel like the comfortability can be a good thing or a bad thing. Where it's like, okay, we really know we love each other, or like we're going to the next level. Me opening the car door for you, maybe it's just like normal part of our life where you could open up the car door.
yeah, I think it's just like the little things that help keep a relationship alive. Like I think being comfortable is great. It's just you don't want to have your partner be giving up on you.
I
Or the
totally agree. Yeah, and I think maybe the car door is a little nuance where it's like opening a door or picking up the bill. Like I always still pick up the bill, right?
Oh, that's
Even
nice.
if Hannah had all the money in the world, I'd still be like, let me pay for
That's
it.
really nice.
So it's little things like that. But I think the car door is just a little nuance.
I think the
For me,
car
it's
door
annoying,
is
like-
like a
More like a metaphor, I feel like. the
yeah,
car
sure,
door is.
sure, definitely, and it's just one of those laying your jacket on a puddle, like stupid things that got started
I've never done
at
that.
Happy Days, and then since then it's kind of in our society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like the key to a successful relationship is just like making sure you do the little things to keep the spark alive.
Definitely.
Because I mean, I've only been in one long-term relationship, but we stopped doing that, and it was like the most boring relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we broke up. We like didn't. Neither of us were trying anymore. We're like, this is a waste of our time.
Yeah, like the little thing, like you're saying. Like I think I read something recently from the Gottman Institute, which was I was just on Instagram, but it was like when your partner makes a bid for your attention, right? You can like give them your full attention, or you can just like kind of acknowledge them, or you can just like still stare at your phone and kind of like. And I think they said you need like 5 positive bids to every 1 negative, right? So that's like a thing where it's like kind of like the car door in the sense you're giving your full attention. Like if they want to show you something on their phone, you're like, are you going to give them your full attention? Or are you just going to kind of sit there and like still at your phone? So like stuff like that is what I think actually matters. And it's more like it's kind of the bigger representation of the car door in a sense.
Yeah. Oh, back on the paying thing. I never told you guys what I was getting at. I was on a date and I was like, I want to pay, and I've never had a guy say this to me before. He said, no, I want to pay,
Mm-hmm.
which that was really nice. That was just a side thing that
Yeah, I
popped
like
in my
that,
head.
but-
Instead of being like, oh no, it's fine, I'll get it. He was like, no, I want to pay.
Yeah, and that's kind of like
nice.
I think you could pick up if a guy's a good guy or not. Whereas like
Mhm.
again, before I met Hannah, when I would go on a first date, I would instantly know if like there was a second date, right? But if I knew there wasn't a second date, I wanted that person in that moment to just feel like seen and valued, right? And like to show them the best time. And like I still wanted to pay because I was like, I want you to like see this was a good time.
Yeah.
And after the fact, we'll probably communicate. But in this moment, like, no, this is like your time.
If you went on a second date with someone and wasn't feeling it, are you somebody and you two like you'll try it again, or if you don't like have that instant connection, you're like, I'm done?
Went on a
Good
second date?
question.
No, on a first
Oh.
date. Like if you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've talked about this a
Yeah,
lot
like-
recently.
First dates, if I was attracted to somebody on a first date, then I would probably definitely go on a second date. I just think a connection on a first date, you don't know, because on a first date, both people or one of them are going to come in with a lot of pressure and be nervous, right?
mhm.
And you're probably not going to get the real them. So that could probably interfere with the connection.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you're physically attracted, giving that second date would probably be best. If you're not physically attracted to each other and there's no connection, then what's the point in a second date?
Because you know how they're always like, you should always do the second date because you never know. And I used to never do that. I was like, if I don't feel something, I'm not wasting my time going on a second date. And then I did it for a little bit. And like, honestly, like if I have felt a connection with someone on a first date, the second date goes great, third date. But even if I've given that person a second date, if I don't feel it on the first, it never goes anywhere. Like I feel
Yeah.
like you either have the spark on the first day or you don't.
Yeah, and I think
which I know
in
people
my
will
s-
get
in
mad
my
about.
experience, you kind of know,
Yeah,
you know.
to some degree, you know.
Yeah.
And I've given people shots. I'm like, it's like,
Unless like you pulled a Kevin James in Hitch, where it's like you're really being
Yeah.
persistent, and it's like, okay, this guy really really likes me.
mm-hmm.
Let me see if I could entertain this because I love this love. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's also
So-
different for a woman now. If you're saying the guy's gonna pay, it's like, all right, do I want to shell out another $100 on this person? And if I
yeah.
don't even know that I want to be around them, right? That's another factor that we have to think about.
Yeah, for the guy side of it, which is why we created First Rounds on Me. When I lived here, I would go. Say I went on 3 Hinge dates in a week, right, or in 2 weeks, and they were like nice dates in the West Village. At minimum, you're spending $200, right?
yeah,
So if I'm spending $600 a week on first dates, I was like, this is just putting so much stress on the date. Whereas if I just meet somebody at a bar for a drink, if it's great, we'll go to dinner. If it's not, okay, I paid $50 for a drink and I'm out.
yeah. I never really think about that from a guy's standpoint. Like, you guys are really investing a lot of money in
Yeah,
dating.
and
like,
we have
girls
to-
are pretty lucky.
Getting ready for a day too, or shower, we shave, we do all this stuff.
Same with girls?
No, it's harder for us, but
It's expensive today. I really never thought about that from a guy's standpoint.
yeah.
I feel for you guys.
Thank you, thank you.
That's
But yeah, so we talked to Mia and Carly from
Mostly balanced.
Mostly Balanced, and they asked us kind of the same question. My barometer has been, as of late, am I excited to see this person again? And if the answer is no, then I usually won't go on a second date. And I
Mhm.
still don't know if that's the best method, but that's what I have in my brain right now. So I definitely, like, even when I meet somebody out, like, it's like, would I be excited to go on a first date with this person? So if the answer is no, then I usually won't do it.
Yeah, I'm
But-
trying to allow the slow burn to happen.
What's the slow burn?
Chlamydia. No?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Make that very clear, not chlamydia.
Oh.
But you know, they always say, like, sometimes the slow burn's healthy, where you start to like someone slowly over time because it's healthier versus like that love bombing or like that instant connection.
Yeah, or your emotions get too involved and
Yeah.
your logic is not there.
So I'm really trying to take the healthier approach of the slow burn of like, yeah, things are great first date, second date, yeah, things are getting there. Third date, maybe I'll be more interested, but it's just like not that fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think the perfect scenario is when you're in the same friend group, and over time you like, just start to grow an attraction for somebody
Yes.
because it's fully vetted. Those feelings are coming on over time, but that rarely happens.
Yeah. I feel like too, especially in New York, I just like, I don't hang out with a lot of guys. Like, I make a joke like I don't have like a lot of guy friends. Me and my girlfriends, we don't hang out with a lot of guys. But back in Minnesota, I had a lot more guy friends. And you're so right. Like, you get that like organic
Yeah.
relationship to form.
I felt the same way in New York. I thought it was weird. I was like, why do we have no girlfriends? Like, are we losers?
I mean, you saw the mixer. The guys are one side, the girls are on the other side. Like, there's no mixing in New York. It's so weird.
Unless you went to like a big college together,
Mhm.
like all of my friends who went to like Villanova or those schools, they all had like their college crew, which was
Yeah.
very mixed. But now going back to the dinner versus drink date, what would you prefer?
So I have a strict rule again. I don't eat on first dates. And that's simply just because if you eat, you're stuck there a long time. Also, drinking, it's so much easier to have an organic conversation. Like, there's nothing worse than when you ask them a question when they're taking a bite and then you have to have that awkward pause. Like, with a friend, you're like, whatever, I don't mind. But when you're with a stranger, having any type of awkward silence, you're like, this is so uncomfortable. So it's just like, it's easier. And if the date sucks, you can have one drink and be done. And also, I think drinks are great to gauge because if you are really enjoying your time, you're like, do you want another drink? Do you want another drink?
Yeah.
And then like that will help kind of for both of you for like easy hour to keep staying.
Yeah, and I think, well, that's a perfect clip for our app. So Joey, clip that. But yeah, kind of one of the other reasons why we created that concept, because if you go on that dinner date, right, forget the money.
Mm-hmm.
In that first 5 minutes, you know if you're connecting with this person or not.
Yeah.
And then for 2 hours, you're like, fuck, I got to sit and listen to this for 2 hours when all I
Mhm.
want to do is just go to the bar and get out of here.
Yeah, and like you haven't even ordered your food yet, and then if they have to cook the food and send it, it's like that could be another hour and a half. Then you're stuck there with this stranger.
Yeah.
That drives you insane.
Now, would it be alcohol or coffee?
Actually, so I have gone on one coffee date, and it's been one of my favorite dates I've ever been on. And I thought it would be bad just from like a nerve standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually gotten really good. I don't even drink before dates anymore. I used to have to like have
Bar the other day.
well besides that one, and then you saw where the date
You didn't have
went.
to. You didn't have to. Though.
I didn't have to, but I did in that situation because I was meeting single people all over the place. But the coffee date was actually a lot of fun. And there was just like no pressure. And it was just easier too because it was like, actually, it was before work. So we're like, it was an easy out. We had like 45 minutes.
Oh, nice.
And it was just like a great date. I don't know. Maybe being sober on a date is good, but I have not.
I mean, I think
that.
if you're sober on a date and it goes well, that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess going into it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Also, going back to the slow burn thing, though, I think there is something to that because I've had situations where I didn't really notice somebody, right? And like, it's not like I saw this person, I thought they were super attractive and I was attracted to them physically. I just really, they're in the group and I didn't really notice them. And then once I actually started talking to them and got to know them, not only did I really like them as a person, I realized that I was very attracted to them physically. And I don't know if I was attracted to them physically because I was attracted to the personality and the person, but I think that can definitely happen. So I'm all for giving it a shot, but there has to be something that keeps me coming back, whether it's physical and then no major issues with the personality. Actually, not even no issues with the personality, or vice versa. Like if I really like the person and I'm like, oh, then I'll probably give it. There has to be something that brings me back.
I know that's why mutual friends or friend groups I feel like is the best case scenario to meeting your future partner, besides dating apps, of course. But like it's just so hard in New York. I don't know what it is, but no one I know really, we don't hang out with guys. And if my friends do hang out with guys, they're like guys they grew up with, and they're like, I'm not going near them. So it's just like I feel like dating apps is the only way really in New York at least to like find somebody, which is fine. I've come to that conclusion that maybe I will find my husband on a dating app, and that's fine.
Hey,
well, it works.
They did it.
True. I know I was telling you because I don't like getting rid of the meet cute has helped a lot.
That's
like,
what the story of how you met in real life.
Yeah, so like everyone wants that like cute story to tell people along the way, and I used to date guys who like I would stick around with or stay with guys longer because we had a cute story. I'd be like, wait, but like our story's so cute, like it was so serendipitous. It was meant to be. The universe brought us together. I'm gonna keep you around. Versus on a dating app, if the guy's a dick right away, I'm like, well, we just met on a dating app, so it's fine. I can just cut you loose. So like it's taken a lot of pressure off me, and it makes me kind of like weed through the week more, which I do like that.
Yeah.
I've gotten rid of the meet cute. I don't care anymore.
But that's actually, so they came up with like the top 10 problems for dating apps. And that was one of them, where the woman would feel pressure because she didn't want to tell the story of how they met on the dating app, and would actually leave a guy because she was like, I want to tell people I actually met you in real life. Not on a date. Oh, yeah. It was that. It was like rejection mindset, then paradox of choice. And then it was like the amount of time you spend on a dating app. Each day that you spend longer reduces the percentage you're going to connect.
We talked about that. That is so true.
Yeah, right? Because like, and I want to hear your take on this, but a big thing for women, right, is obviously to be safe, which is so important to me, right? Creating dating app, I want women to feel the most safe. But in today's world, they're taught like, do as much research on this guy as possible, Google him, figure out what he does, and you do that for 2 weeks, right? And then you're building up all these preconceived notions and wrong impressions of this person. And you may also even think that he's better than he is, right? You could be like, this guy's like Brad Pitt, he's good looking, he's funny. But when you meet that person, you already have some type of feeling towards them, or you've already felt like, okay, I don't like this about him, but I'm just going to go on this date because we've been talking for 2 weeks. And then when you go on that date, not only is it awkward because you kind of know each other, but you found reasons that you think he's great or reasons that you don't like him.
Yeah.
And then the odds of just making it organic and real are very low.
I know, because like girls, we build a fake person in our head the moment we see somebody. Like it's so bad. Like we always joke, we're like, well, we have to kill the person we made in our head because they're not real. And then that totally takes over from you even getting to know the person that you're going on a date with. But if I'm talking to a guy on a dating app and he doesn't ask me on a date within probably like 48 hours after matching or like the first message, I'm not going on a date. I don't know what it is. I think it's that like you just overthink it and you're like, well, I don't wanna, like we can't have time to think about going on the date, because if you give yourself time to think, you're not gonna go on the date, at least from a girl's standpoint.
Yeah, I love that, and obviously agree with it. But yeah, it's just fascinating, like as you dig deeper into all these issues, how the brain really works, and how when you make that first date organic, you have so much to talk about and so much natural connection instead of overthinking. I think overthinking is the perfect way to phrase it.
Well, girls are legit FBI agents. Like, if you give me a first name and like one minor detail, like even like what college I went to,
You'll find semen.
I can find everything about this person. So even on Hinge or other dating apps where they give like bare minimum information, I know everything about this person before I go on a date with them. Like, they'll tell me things. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I already know.
So you do that now?
Yeah. It's like an addiction. Like, I don't know what.
Would you ever not do it?
I mean, I could not.
Here's my
but
reasoning.
It's fun.
Right? Before dating apps or before technology, right? Say you and Steven on a date, right? You don't know anything about each other. The things that are deep about you, right, will come out over time with trust, right? On a second date, a third date, because you guys are building a rapport, right? So you might not be politically aligned with Steve, but you've gone on 4 dates. And you're like, you know what? That actually isn't super important to me because I actually like who Steve is as a person, and that view is actually not his real view. You know, he's on the outskirts of it, right? Whereas on dating apps and with technology, you find out, hey, this person's politically so off with me that I'm not even going to give them a chance.
Yeah.
When you need that trust to kind of give the person room to express who they really are.
I know, and that's something that I struggle with when dating is, obviously I put my whole life online, and I'll notice that like the guys I date, they won't ask me questions, or they'll have all these preconceived notions about me because they think they know based off of what they see and hear, which isn't their fault. Like, they're seeing like a person on a platform and they're getting all this information from, and that's probably what's caused a lot of my relationships to end. It's because like I'm dating these people who are not even trying to get to know me, and I've asked them, they're like subconsciously, I feel like I already know you because I've listened to your podcast or I see you on social media and you tell us everything about your life. So I forget to ask you questions because I actually already know the answers to. So in a world without social media, I feel like we'd all be in very happy and healthy relationships.
Well, you did something at Marin's event the other day. I told Hannah was like really noticeable, and subconsciously, I don't know if you did this or not, but when they asked you what you did for a living, you had an easy opportunity to kind of, you know, announce who you are, right? Because you're pretty popular among the podcast world, but you just said like, hey, I'm on social media and I do podcasting, and like didn't say like Mean Girl Pod or Barstool, and I was like, oh, like that to me is such a telling sign of who she is as a person, where she's not trying to boast. She's like, I just want to be me, and I want these people to just see me as a normal person.
Yeah, that definitely has come from being like I've never been someone to like openly be like, yeah, I work at Barstool, Mean Girl Pod, but I've been so tainted in the past and scarred because people have like talked to me for the wrong reasons or dated me for the wrong reasons, or they'll do that thing where they'll like stalk me on social media, which that's so fine because I would do the same thing, where we'll go like I've been on so many dates where I've literally not been asked one question. It's like,
so if you go back on a lot of our clips, I don't do red flags or green flags, but a green flag for me, I'm doing it now.
I love red flags and green flags.
I hate them, but I have my few that I stand by.
Wait, why do you hate them? I feel like they're
just
so fun.
because every situation is so unique that, like, if a guy does this on a first date, like, never speak to him again. It's like, well, you don't know the context. But one for me was, if I'm always going to ask that person a lot of questions because I like to get deep and I like, you know, for them to tell me about themselves.
Yeah.
If they don't ask me any questions, I'm like, huge red flag. She was like, I want to get to know you. And I was like, really? And she just kept asking me questions, and I was asking her questions. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that, to me, is like the green red flag that I have.
Oh, fully. Like, emotional depth is one of my big, like, green flags for people. And if the conversation is going 2 ways and I can't, because you know you date some people and you feel like it's just like this the entire time and all your questions are so surface level. Like, if that person's not willing to, like, get deep and, like, vulnerable with, I would say, like, 4th date, I'm like, I'm out. Because
I did it.
Are you open to
in the
doing it
first
sooner?
5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
I would love to do it on the first date. One time I was dating this guy, and he was like, you just like to get really deep and ask a lot of deep questions. I'm like, bro, this is like our 5th date.
Yeah.
Like, get vulnerable now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, I don't think you should force those things, but like, if it comes up, just get into it, and you'll realize sooner if you like the person and like each other, and instead of just like playing it safe and realizing on the 5th date that you just wasted 10 hours of your life with someone you really don't like.
Well, and I feel like it also just shows so much of that person and what they're looking for too, and like, I value vulnerability, and if that person doesn't value, like, I can't date them.
I think that's great. So on our 3rd date, Hannah sat me down and was like, listen, I'm getting some really strong feelings for you. I'm laying it all out there now because I'm not playing this game anymore because I don't want to get hurt. And hearing that from a woman's perspective, because if you go 5-6 dates and you start to build these feelings without a deep understanding, you're just building up the hurtness, right? So she's like, this is who I am. If you're in, that's great. But if you're out, you got to be out now because I don't want to get hurt. And I was like, whoa. She was so vulnerable. And I was like, okay, like it's a lot, but let's figure this out.
I've definitely learned to like lay out what I need earlier on, and not because like in the past I tried to be so much more chill because I'm needy. Like I need words of affirmation. I need vulnerability. I need you to like want to spend time with me. So I try to lay that out right away versus being like, no, I'm fine. And then you date someone for like 2 months and you're like, wait, I'm not getting anything I need, but also they don't think I need this. And I've ended a lot of relationships because the guy's like, oh, like I'm not good with words of affirmation or I can't really be vulnerable. I'm like, well, I'm glad I found that out on the second date because now I can like.
What's
stop.
vulnerable to you for a man?
I think just like being in touch with your emotions. Like you don't have to be like telling me your life story right away, but just being in touch with your emotions and also willing to like hear my life and my story and not just give me like the straight up like, oh, sorry that happened. But like be like, well, how do you feel about that? Like asking like the little bit deeper questions.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what I preach about. Like male vulnerability is like, you know, men and women are going to speak different languages and we're going to disagree a lot. But like giving the person that you're trying to connect with, that you love, that safe space to be like, hey, this is how I am. And for you to be like, okay, let me do the best I can to understand that. I might not, I'm letting you know, but I'm going to try to do everything I can to understand where you're coming from. And I think that's like letting your guard down as a man, being like, instead of being like, you know, fuck off, like you're just causing me drama.
Yeah. I mean, I've even like gone on dates with guys where we've dated for a little bit and I'll be like, I'm having a really bad day and they'll just like move on to the next thing. It's like, just ask me why. That's all I want. And just pretend to care. You don't even have to care, just pretend. And it's like, it's just like back to like the bare minimum that girls want. Like you don't have to be there crying or anything like that, but just like act like you, well, I hope you're not acting. I hope you actually care. But like care and ask and just pretend that you're listening. I don't know. It's just, it's the bare minimum.
Have there been a lot of guys that you have been interested in that you were interested in pursuing something more and they weren't? Or is it more that you find that you're just not interested in most of the guys you meet?
Oh yeah, I've been rejected a million times. But usually it's guys that I'm like choosing emotionally unavailable people. I dated a guy for like 5 months and like the whole time he pretty much was telling me he never wanted a girlfriend, but I was like, I can change you. I'll be the girl who changes you. I've learned I'm never going to be that girl who changes somebody. And then I've dated like another guy too where I wanted more, but he also was just like, I'm not looking for anything serious. And I just like wasn't willing to hear that from the beginning. So yeah, I've definitely, I've probably been rejected more than me rejecting someone.
Gotcha.
Rejected in the sense that they broke up with you, or would you initiate? Like, say you saw a guy in a bar, would you approach?
I'm too scared.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I cannot talk to guys. I have like no game. Like I cannot talk to a guy at a bar. I never have.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you change that like once just to see how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, drinking a lot of alcohol, I would. Yeah.
What is it? Is it like a fear of getting rejected in person, or you just don't like to actually physically approach?
I don't know what it is because I've been rejected like a good amount where I'm not I'm not afraid of like humiliation. I don't really know what it is. I've talked about this with my friends a lot because they're kind of scared to like talk to guys too. And I don't know what it is.
So funny that everybody says they like want to date and wants a relationship, but when it's actually in person, it just usually doesn't go down. Like a lot of people are shy and reserved and won't actually initiate a conversation.
I don't know if I've ever gone on a date from in person.
You've never gone on a date from in person?
No, like, I don't know if I've ever met someone in New York at like a bar and gone on a date with. I'm trying to think. Maybe like one guy?
You know what I used to do, which was really bad? So I'd be walking down the street, and like if I saw an attractive woman approaching, maybe like I wasn't super into them, but I was like, let me create a New York moment here. And I would like look them in the eyes, and then like we'd look back at each other. And it happened once where I think she was going to some event, and I was like, well, why don't you get a drink with me instead? And she was like, really? And she like canceled her event. We went for a drink, and in my head, I'm like, fuck, like this isn't gonna go anywhere. What am I doing this for?
Oh my gosh.
You made her night and then ruined her life in like 2 hours.
I mean,
Wait, how old are you?
33.
Okay. And how old are you?
36.
I'm wondering too if, I mean, I'm gonna be 28 tomorrow, so it's not like our generations are that different. But I feel like people around my age are so afraid of in-person conversation. I don't know if COVID ruined that or
I see
social
that.
media did.
So when I moved to New York, I was 26, right? And I thought the normal way to meet somebody was to approach them in the bar,
Yeah,
right?
in Minnesota, it's very normal.
Yeah, and then when I would do it in New York, I was like, oh, maybe like they're just not into me. But then I saw like it happened to everybody, and I was like, wait, why is everybody turning down everybody that approaches them? And I think maybe our age or your age, they just got so much more comfortable with meeting on the app that it created this social awkwardness.
Yeah.
And I think that we actually don't want that.
I would love if someone approached me at a bar, but like no one, like it's not even like guys aren't even approaching like me and my friends. It's like guys are here, girls are here, and everyone just kind of like keeps to themselves.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's the same as dating, like dating apps, meeting in person. People want the person that they want to approach them. If it's not the person that they want to like ask them out, or then they don't want it to happen. But if it's like someone they're interested in, they are always open to it. So I think it really just comes down to like, am I interested in this person that's approaching me?
Yeah, I know. I told my friends like this summer we have to really like make a bucket list, like going out. We have to like approach people more. So we'll see if it happens.
I think everyone loves it. Everyone loves getting approached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, who doesn't want their ego stroked a little bit? And I've done it with my co-host Alex. She's married and she's an incredible wing woman, and she'll like help me approach people with her, and that's so much easier because she'll just like go up to people and be like, "Are you single? Are you in a relationship?" And if they're, and they'll be like tell her, and she's like, "Well, I'm married," but if they say single, she's like, "My friend's single," so it's a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm gonna try that this summer.
I feel like it's easier for a woman to approach now than a man.
Do guys like it? Like I genuinely don't know.
Well, it's up for debate, but she approached me on the dating app. It's different though.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally think it's a huge turn on because it shows a lot of confidence, right?
Okay.
But also like in today's world as a guy, you don't know what's going to happen if you approach a woman, right? Like it could go really south, right? Like
Yeah.
they could be like, "You're a fucking creep, get away from me." When if a woman approaches a guy, worst case scenario is just like, "All right, like I'm not into you," or that's even bad, right? But yeah, I feel like there's so much more downside for a man to approach a woman. I personally don't agree with it because I would always do it.
Yeah.
But
I fully get that just because everything that's happened. Like you guys definitely have to be a little bit more like scared to do that. I think if like any guys are listening, approach a girl, but know your boundaries. Like don't linger. And even if you feel like things are like going well, like leave pretty quickly on, because
You'll come back.
yeah, there's nothing worse than
If you're
a
into
guy
the guy.
staying. That will annoy a girl like
Yeah,
nobody's
yeah.
business, especially when they're with their girlfriends. And if a girl's interested, she'll find you, or or be like, "Hey, can I have your number?" and like leave. That's like the biggest turnoff is when a guy lingers. It's like go
Yeah.
away.
Step one for a guy to approach a girl: be
Yes.
hot. First of all,
For the guy,
yeah, be
Yes.
hot.
just be confident.
Say hi. Don't come up with some cheesy line.
I have the best line though. Well, no, it's not a line. I have the best strategy.
Oh, what is
Like
it?
if you don't know what to say, I feel like you find something. Like say I was gonna approach you, right? I'd be like, "Hey, like what's your name?" "Oh, I'm Steve." "Wow, the gray shirt really brings out like your eyes. It's really cool." And like very subtly, which is a nice compliment, but without you being like, "Oh, you're hot," or like something like that. Like a compliment about them, which is a subtle compliment. You know, like, "Oh, Jordan, that's a really cool gold bracelet. Where'd you get that?" And it's like, "Oh, that's so nice. That's so sweet. I got it here." It's like, "Okay, cool." I walk away.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'd be so so interested to see what I would do if a guy did that.
What would you do?
I
if
feel
if
like
like
I would-
Steve approached you in the bar and was like, "Oh my God, that bracelet it matches your outfit so well. I really like it." And he was like, "Oh, all right, I'll see you later."
I might think he
He's
he
gay.
might not be straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair, very
I'll
fair.
be honest with you. I'd be like,
Maybe
oh
my
my God, that's
strategy
my new
is
gay best
shit.
friend.
Well, here's the thing. I think that a lot of you have to remember. I think people are out, right? They're being social. They want to have fun.
Mhm.
It does not matter what you say. It matters the vibe that you bring. If you're fun and if you're making them laugh, like you can say anything, but if the person's having a good time, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I think too, just like being confident. I was talking to Marin about the singles mixer, and we were saying like the one thing we wished would have happened more is we wish the guys were more confident to speak to the girls, because one of the singles that was there, the guy got 5 girls' numbers, like 5 dates. He's like, he left with 5 dates. Well, we're like, that's incredible. I left with none. Like, I don't have any dates. Like, I actually won. But
Did you
like,
actually want any?
Yeah,
Okay.
but like no men approached me.
Well,
like,
did you? That's the thing. Did you want just a date, or did you want a date with someone that was specifically that you didn't get a chance to talk to?
I mean, I didn't get approached by anyone. Marn had to introduce me to every guy I spoke to. Marn introduced me to them. So we were like, we want more guys to go like and be like confident when they're there. Like there was this one guy who actually had my number from Marin. He like DM'd her, and I actually told her too that I thought he was cute. Like give him my number. He was there, and he didn't make an effort to like approach me or talk to me. And Marin and I were like, that's such a turnoff. If he would have like approached me and been confident, I probably would have gone on a date with him. But now that he didn't, and he just kind of like had lack of confidence, her and I were both like, nah, it's not worth it. Like confidence is everything.
I agree.
Yeah. Should we do some speed round? We
Let's
have
do
10 minutes left. Thank you, Hannah. All right, so we'll just hit you with some kind of like a little speed round, and
Okay.
just answer them however you want. What is the best thing that's happened to you today?
Coming on the podcast with you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We've never heard that one before.
No, I love being on podcasts.
No,
You guys are great.
We love having you. It's been awesome.
Seeing Hannah.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Now you're being honest. Yeah. What is the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh God. Like from a guy?
Anybody.
Oh, anything has to do with if I'm funny. Like somebody like you're so funny. That
Cool.
for sure.
Favorite date spot in New York City?
Any like bougie cocktail bar. That's quieter. There's nothing worse than going on a date when it's so loud you're screaming at one another. So like a romantic, bougie, quieter cocktail bar.
Can you give an example? I have a few. Just I want to see if any of them align.
I like can't think of any place off the top of my head.
Have you ever been to Little Branch?
No.
Oh.
Okay, I'll make note of that.
Little Branch, Rain's Law Room.
I haven't been there either. I haven't even heard of these places.
Wow.
That happens to me a lot too, where I'll go to a bar for like a whole night and I have no idea what it's called, and
Yeah.
never. They'll be like, "Have you been to that place?" No, I don't know. And I spent like 6 hours there.
I would start with those two.
Okay, honestly, too, like a place with couches, like there's nothing, maybe like a second or third date, because like sitting side by someone is so much more fun than like across a table. But I don't know any place.
So Rain's Law Room. Have you ever seen like the setups in Greece, like Mykonos, where it's like those couches?
Mm-hmm.
So Rain's Law Room, it's underneath this building. You have to go down to this random door. You have to knock. Someone opens it up, right? When you go in, it's just like all those cabanas, but it's underground, right? So there's like no beach or sun or anything, but it's like an intimate cabana, and there's like tons of them, and then you just sit and have a date.
Oh, actually, is it Irving Place or Irving something in Gramercy? It's like Irving
Plaza?
something. Maybe it's Irving Plaza.
I know it's like a venue. Like I don't know if it's like a.
It's like upstairs bar, and it's like all couches and kind of like your own area. But I loved it because it was like a couch, so you can like.
Yeah.
Just easier. Or a bar. I just hate sitting across from people. Like you're screaming and you're like, this is not fun.
Okay. Favorite rom-com?
I have so many. Probably My Best Friend's Wedding is like up there.
Okay.
Do you know what Forgetting Sarah Marshall is?
Yes, I've seen that.
Okay.
It's a good one.
We did kind of like a rapid fire in Washington Square Park the other day, and one of the questions was, can you name 2 actors or actresses from Forgetting Sarah Marshall? Nobody knew what the movie was.
Really?
There's a lot of like hipsters though. Like
Nobody knew what the movie was, and and then once we would like give them hints, like Jason Segel, they were like, oh, who's that? We were like, are we
I
just
Know Your
getting that
Mother?
old?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, When Harry Met Sally. That's my favorite movie of all time. Yeah.
Favorite movie of all time.
Mhm.
Nice.
I love
The
it.
quintessential New York rom-com. Last movie that made you cry.
Oh, every movie makes me cry. Oh, A Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks.
We've gotten that a
Hannah
few
was
times.
sobbing.
Yeah.
I was on a plane and I had to put my hood up because I was bawling my
Don't
eyes
be
off.
ashamed to
Oh.
be vulnerable. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, Hannah was fine the whole movie. At the end of the movie, she's just dripping. I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, no, the movie reminds me of Grandpa. I was like, all right, I'm sorry.
Oh, and just Tom Hanks too. So sad. Bald.
I haven't seen it yet, but it's on my list. Most played song on your Spotify.
Like currently or like back to my.
Whatever.
Oh God, anything sad. I love sad. I like music that makes me want to cry. Joji was one of my top. Glimpse, is it Glimpse of You? That song, Glimpse
Not
of
sure.
Us.
I don't know who Joji is.
Oh, he'll make you cry.
Are you
Glimpse
a
of Us, I think it was.
Are you a Swiftie?
Yeah, but not to like. I'm
Okay.
not going to a concert or anything.
Okay.
Back in the day, it would have been somebody else, but he would get me canceled now.
Okay.
He was my number one.
Kanye?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
I
can't.
I am not ashamed to say it. I mean, I do not agree with his views on things, but his music is undeniably incredible.
Yeah. He
Especially,
was like my number one
yeah.
all the way down.
Okay, marry, fuck, kill, 6 figures, 6 feet, 6 inches.
I think Martin asked me this question. Marry 6 figures.
Is that before or after tax?
After.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna
clears
say
6
figures.
figures.
Now is,
Just
like,
making
very
sure.
different.
7 figures.
Just
6,
making
6,
sure.
7.
Okay.
I guess you'd have. Well, I don't know. I guess you'd have to fuck the 6 inches.
But is that too
Flaccid?
small?
No, I think it's all about the motion of the ocean.
Okay.
Is that flaccid or erect?
Erect.
Okay.
Such detailed questions.
Just setting the
I
record
guess
straight.
kill 6 feet because you know what? Height. I'm trying to not date people based off their height anymore. Working on that.
We got that. It's yeah.
But
We'll
you have
get
to
there.
marry the 6 figures for sure.
Okay, last one for now. What does love mean to you?
Oh, easy. Wanting to. I've thought about this since like the day I was born. Being or wanting to be around someone more than being alone. Like I love being alone more than anything. So if I meet somebody who I like to be with more than I like to be alone, then I'll know they're my person.
Nice.
That was a great answer.
And Joe has a question he likes to ask about.
Oh yeah. If you could have one law in the world that everybody had to follow, any as crazy as you want, what law would it be and why?
Oh my God, these questions.
And
are
you could take it
loaded.
anywhere you want. Steve usually goes with Starbucks
I go
lines
practical.
and stuff.
Oh.
I go more like deep, like save the world kind of answers.
Oh, well, if we're doing like Starbucks lines, like in no way, shape, or form are you allowed to budge on an airplane, getting off an airplane. You will be arrested if you do.
If you what?
But like, you know how on an airplane, like you get off and the order you're,
The
you know what I
row
mean?
in the rows.
Yeah.
But so many people budge and like,
They're animals.
yeah, follow lines. That's mine. You like, what is it called?
Follow the leader?
No, I feel like that's like an elementary term I'm forgetting. Just the rules of lines. No
Okay.
budging is allowed. Budging is illegal. You'll go to jail. That's my rule.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
There's nothing worse than a budger on an airplane.
Yeah.
That's my living hell.
All right. Cool. So we know Mean Girl Pod.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got going on? Anything you want to plug?
No, it's really just Mean Girl Pod, and then my socials at Jordyn Woodruff, Jordyn with a Y. That's about it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you
Well,
guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. We loved having you, and it's been great hanging with you a couple times this week.
Thank you. I hope you guys move to New York.
We're working on it.
That'd
Thanks.
be fun.
I
Alright.
hear that you and Hannah are going to become best friends.
Oh, yeah, we will.
All right. Jordyn, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. For now, check out one of our previous videos.